guys, I'm Solstrid. I'm making this video to show you guys how I make thumbnails for my Minecraft videos. While this isn't a complete guide for everything you need to know, I still hope it gives you a good enough idea on how to make your own thumbnails. Before we start, I'd really appreciate it if you help me out and subscribe to my YouTube channel, since we're getting a lot closer to the 500 sub mark and I'm hoping to get there by the end of 2025. One of the most important parts of making thumbnails would be the layout or plan. You can make thumbnails without planning stuff like positions or color palette, but I think it just makes it a whole lot easier if you lay your thumbnail out before actually making any of the character positions or any of that stuff.
The software I usually use for planning stuff or making thumbnails generally is Krita. I just think it's easy to use and it's free, so I'd recommend it to anyone that doesn't have software. You can do this with a lot of other drawing softwares, so it's not completely necessary, but I'll still leave the download in the description.
So what I usually do for placeholders and stuff is I'll get my background color and then I'll usually spawn in some type of word or letter just to mark where my character will go. For here I'm just using a basic question mark with the Minecraft font. You can really use anything since it doesn't really matter. Now I'll probably put this on the left side of my screen so I can put a chicken or whatever I want in the middle of it. Just preference. Again, you don't have to do the same thing I'm doing, just do whatever you want, put it wherever you want. For reference, I'm just going to use one of the video thumbnails from one of Windsweep's videos. One of the main things we can find from this is that the reason Windsweep's character is so close to the screen is so that he's the first person the viewer sees. The bigger the character, the more attention you grab. The second thing to look out for is that Windsweep's character is bigger than Dr. Rat's. This is so Windsweep gets more recognition than Dr. Rat while still giving him some recognition. Of course, because it's Windsweep's video and all. The third and final thing to look out for is probably the background. If the background isn't an important part of the video, then I would recommend making it super small so that it doesn't grab too much attention. Lastly, for this subject, I just wanted to give you guys an example of how background scaling works, if you don't understand it. If you do understand it and just want to continue with the video, just skip to the next timestamp. Anyways, for the example, I have a thumbnail I made for one of my friend's videos. I'll leave a link in the description if anyone wants to go check out his channel. So the first thing that catches your eye might have been the player in the middle. As I said before, the bigger the character, or the closer the character is to the screen, they always get more attention than the smaller characters or models, whatever you're using. Though the person in the background still gets enough attention just by being visible in the thumbnail. Just make sure to make him at least a medium size so it's not too small. Now, what I really wanted to show you was just how much this impacts how your thumbnails look. Like if I take this, my player here, and I upscale it, then you can't see most of the background and stuff is missing. But let's say I make it too small. You can probably tell this more on mobile, but it looks like the withers are the main premise of it because they're bigger than the main character of your thumbnail or your video or whoever. You mainly want to just make the biggest point, like the biggest image or model, character, whatever, the biggest part, just so it drags more attention to it. But yeah, I think that's enough for that. That's basically all I was trying to explain. This works the exact same way. Like if this is smaller, then the viewer might not be able to see it if they're on mobile. Laptop users, PC users, since they have a wider screen, they can probably see this, but you want to make it so laptop, mobile, whatever you're using, the user can still see what's going on. Same for the withers too, same for basically everything. So now that we have that out of the way, and you have a better understanding of size variations and stuff, I think it's time to move on to posing. Okay, so there's two softwares I would usually use for posing, and I would highly recommend. First one being Blockbench, which is a really good modeling and texturing software. The other one is Blender. While there are plugins I usually use for modeling, posing, that stuff, I would recommend Blockbench for modeling, just specifically Minecraft stuff, because it is easier to use. but Blender is definitely the way to go for lighting and compositing. So I think what we'll do is stick to Blender for modeling and all the other stuff for now. If you don't have Blender, I would recommend getting it before watching this part. When you're ready, open Blender and it should look like this. What I'm using for rigging is something called MC Prep, which is free and overall one of my favorite Blender plugins. You can download MC Prep at their website, theduckcow.com, and their MC Prep add-on section. After you have MC Prep downloaded, you can go back into Blender. In Blender, just go to Preferences, then you'll see an interface pop up. Go to Add-ons, and drop the file plugin for MC Prep into the interface. After you do that, just make sure it's enabled and you got the plugin. After getting the plugin, we can go to MC Prep plugin menu to grab our character. Just press the tab on the right side of your screen and it should look something like this. Scroll down until you see a category named Mob Spawner. Click on it, and after doing so, you should see a little thing under it that says Import Rigged Mobs and Players, just so you know you're at the right place for it. For me, under that, it says All Mobs. It could be something different to you, but that's just like the category list for spawning in mobs. Drop down until you find Player Mobs and pick from an assortment of versions, but I'm just going to stick with Simple Player. To add a skin of your choice, you can either add from File, or you can type in their username if you're using Wi-Fi. To get this, you can scroll up in the MC Prep menu until you find something called Skin Spawner. Again, there's two options, so you can either paste a skin from a file by going to NameMC or Skindex, whatever you use. I use like Nova skins and that stuff, I make my own skins. Or if you're connected to the Wi-Fi, you can type in your username. Though, this only works if you're already wearing the existing skin you want. Now, for this thumbnail, I think I'm just going to skip with the default Steve skin, since I don't want to do anything too flashy. Now for posing. Posing armature rigs is pretty simple. To pose your character, select the bone of your character by left-clicking it. Then, go to the top left of your screen where it says Object Mode and change it to Pose Mode. Now, you should be able to move your armature's body parts however you want. If you want, you can pull a reference image up online on how you want your character to be posed. Here I have my finished pose. If you didn't know how to move objects or bones in Blender, while you're in the pose mode, you can click on the bone or limb you want to rotate or move. And then click the left bar on the left side of your screen to choose whether you want to move it, scale it, or rotate it. If you couldn't figure out how to add a block or change textures, this is how I did it. At the bottom of your menu, you should find a list of different blocks, items, or entity categories. To add blocks, you can go into Block Model Spawner and press the drop arrow to search for your block. Now for my textures, I went to the very top and enabled jmc.obj, which is a way to export worlds, but it also enables the setting that allows you to swap your texture packs. Press Swap Texture Pack and go to your texture pack folder you want to use. Then just open the texture pack and you should have it. If you aren't finding your folder, it's because you need to have it in a normal file and not a zip file. I'll also leave the link to the texture pack I used in the description. Now for the lighting. If you press the fourth one, you can view your Blender in shader mode. After doing so, you should see that your scene looks something like this. I personally deleted the preset lighting because I don't really like the look of it, but you can always edit it or change it however you want. If you want to add a new light source, you can press Shift and A, then find the lighting tab. For me, I'm just going to add a spotlight because I want to change it so that it points a specific light in a specific direction that I want. In the bottom left corner, while selecting the light source, you'll be able to find the lighting settings, so you can edit whatever you want with the light source. To make the lighting sharper, what I usually do is I go into the globe thingy and change it to 0, so that my lighting, if it's not being affected by my lighting, it automatically comes pitch black or with the default lighting that I put there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the View tab and enable Camera to View, so wherever I'm looking with my viewport, the camera also moves along with it. There's also a focal length setting that I'm going to use to lower my FOV. You can also do the same if you want. Last but not least, to export a picture of your character or characters. To remove the background and make the background transparent, go to Render, Film, and enable Transparency. The easiest way to export would simply be pressing F12 on your keyboard and then pressing Save and renaming your photo. Once you have your rigs and models laid out and ready to use, let's load up our photoshopping software. For this video, I'll be using Krita, since again, it's free. For the editing software, we'll start off by downloading and opening Krita. You can find the download link in the description. To start off, we'll start by deleting our first paint layer, since this will most likely be left blank unless you plan on drawing something on it. After doing that, you're ready. To begin with, we'll need to add our assets that we made in Blender earlier. You can do this by dragging and dropping your image file into Krita. Make sure you exported it as a PNG though, because if you export it as a JPEG or anything else, it'll automatically have a background. After spawning your images in, now you can scale your images and put them in the places you want. Keep in mind the closer the image is to the screen or the bigger it is, the more noticeable it is. Once you have all of that set up, it's time to move on to the background. There's many different ways of doing this, like making the map model in Blender and then rendering it, or taking a screenshot and putting it behind. But for me, I'm just going to use a base color. You can do this by going to the right side of your screen, choosing a brush, changing the color of it and the size of it, and unlocking your background and painting on the background layer. A little fun thing you can add are those manga panel dot styled shadings. You can do this by creating a new layer above the background and below everything else, and drawing where you want it to be. The color of the drawing doesn't matter, but make sure it matches the color of your background if you want it to be the same color. Then right click the layer, go to Layer Properties, and go to Pattern Overlay. You can choose any overlay you want here and create them. But I'd recommend choosing plain circles for the effect, then just change the opacity to your liking. One of the last things I think of to show you guys is how to make outlines for models and stuff, like black for specific side and light for specific side to show light and dark. To do this, open the layer properties for the specific layer with the picture of the model you want to do this to. Turn drop shadow and inner shadow on, and turn off global light so you can set the directions separately. If it's on, it'll just make one side go to the opposite direction as of the other side. Choose which one you want the inner light to be. For me, I'm just going to use the drop shadow so it's on the outside. Change the color to white and change it from multiply to lighten. And change the color to white. For both of them, just set the opacity to what you want. And if you want your size to make it so it's a hard color instead of fade, change it to 0, and you can also adjust the distance and stuff to change how far it is away. After arranging all of your assets and settings to the way you like them, if you want to add a text, an easy way to do it is by going to the top left corner of your screen and choosing the T icon. Then click anywhere on your canvas. After doing so, you can type what you into it and change the font to whatever you like. If you don't have the font you want, you can download it from DaFont. I'll leave the link in the description. You can also type it on a separate layer and put the text behind characters, giving it that distance effect. Once you have your thumbnail fully completed, you can go to the File button on the top left of your screen. Go to Save. To save it as a PNG file instead of a Krita file, you can press the little bar at the bottom of the screen and change it to a PNG file. A little issue I've had in the past with thumbnails is the files being too big. You can easily find a PNG compressor online, but do be aware that a lot of these websites can contain viruses, so just stay alert. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. Again, I'm sorry if the video didn't have everything you needed for your thumbnail. Plenty of other videos and thumbnail tutorials on YouTube. One of the people I would recommend watching would be Laura's Bones, because I grew up watching a lot of his content, and he's where I learned to make my first decent looking thumbnail. Anyways, thank you guys for watching if you made it this far into the video. I'd really appreciate it if you gave me some pointers on my editing or voice recording, since this is my first time doing long form content.